Why did the Black Plague arrive at the height of the light of the Catholic Church in the middle of the 13th century? It had been the time of cathedral constructions. It was the St. Louis period. It was the time when the volumes of theology, which respect the domain of reason and that of faith, had been revealed. We could say to ourselves, here we have the summit of Christianity, and this is symbolized by the Smiling Christ of Vézelay, who welcomes pilgrims who return to this great basilica. It was during this period that the boat from Genoa landed in Italy and the Black Plague spread throughout the Western world, killing perhaps a quarter or a third of the population, constantly returning, turning joy change into mourning of Christians. At that time they lost their smiles and became figuratively crucified, suffering a painful burden of the cross. The question that arose in theology, why did God allow it to occur during this period and not in a period truly when the church behaved badly? For a simple reason, it is that God himself sees into the hearts of man. He does not only see the exterior appearance. Therefore, this magnificent Christian civilization, which roses from the ground, he sees that when men create a unified civilization, due to their human weakness, they cannot help it. They become proud of their civilization. We have a symptom of this from St. Louis, who wished to create an entirely unified Christian kingdom, who suddenly persecutes the Jews, forces them to listen Christian sermons in order to convert them, because he could not tolerate disdain within the unity of his kingdom. St. Louis himself would learn in the end total humility by dying in the misery of diarrhea at the gates of Tunis while he had been on crusade. For Western Christianity, this is similar. It will discover that at the moment when it is the most fervent, the most holy, it may be struck by misfortunes, and that this occurred due to pride. This way of doing so would save many souls while losing their bodies in death. And we can prove that he had emerged from this unique Christian unity of pride. It must be remembered that it was at that time, the Middle Ages of Enlightenment, that the technique, which consisted of imposing by force and sometimes by fire the Catholic faith, and therefore a violent inquisition, would appear. A few centuries later, the church would durably divide with Protestantism, because the popes would become too proud of their power, too severe in the exercise of their power. God has already practiced this thing in the Jewish Empire when King Josiah, submit of holiness, the St. Louis of the Jews, died miserably killed by a Roman pharaoh, while 10 years later, when he had erased all the idols from his country, so that was wonderful. The Jewish people were deported to Babylon. It was in this ordeal that the Jewish people had learned that they were fragile and mortal, and that they learned humility. In the Middle Ages, during the Black Death, the 100 Years' War, and the wars of religion, Christianity would also learn the same.